This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good Friday afternoon. Thanks for checking in. President Trump has just signed an executive order that imposes new tariffs on nearly 70 nations. Those tariffs kick in at midnight August 7th.
This is making our country very rich and respected again.
Correspondent Nancy Cordes.
President Trump said he has to hike rates because America's global trade deficit poses, quote, an unusual and extraordinary threat to national security.
But Democrats say the tariffs will hurt the economy by imposing additional costs on you, the consumer. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
This is a deal, all right. It's a raw deal. A raw deal for the American people.
Schumer predicts the American people are the ones who will have to pay the price for the Trump tariffs. Correspondent Garrett Hayes.
The new rates globally start to go into effect in 7 days, but they won't fully apply until October for shipped goods. That's products that are on their way to the U.S. right now. All of that could help keep costs down for consumers, including for holiday shopping.
The tariffs range from 10 to 50%. A 35% tariff on Canada took effect today. In recent days, the Trump White House has made trade deals with at least 7 countries, including Japan, Britain, South Korea, and the EU. The July jobs report went public today. It was not good. Hiring slowed to just 73,000 last month. Unemployment in America inching up to 4.2%. Experts blame the job losses on the ongoing trade war, which is expected to impact hiring in the months ahead. Israeli Ambassador Mike Huckabee touring a food distribution site in Gaza today. He says there's a lot of misinformation about what's really happening in the Palestinian territory.
I put pictures out on Twitter that showed that there were over 900 trucks filled with food, thousands of pallets of food sitting, rotting in the sun, that the UN refused to move into Gaza to feed people that could have fed Gaza for 2 years.
Huckabee says the UN didn't like the way the U.S. and Israel were handling the humanitarian crisis. He adds that Hamas, not Israel, is ultimately to blame for the ongoing devastation in Gaza.
I'm not going to tell you there's not suffering in Gaza. There's a lot of suffering in Gaza, but here's the reason they're suffering. Because of Hamas. These are animals. They're savages. They have increased and caused the suffering. And if there's hunger, a lot of it is because when the food does go in, Hamas steals it and then turns around and sells it. And some of it is very difficult to get in because Hamas not only hijacks the trucks, but they shoot at the people who are coming to get it.
Meantime, 664 days after Hamas invaded Israel, the terror group is still holding 20 living Israeli hostages inside Gaza. Torrential rain causing havoc last night in the northeast. 5 inches of rain fell in just a few hours in New York City, where streets were turned to rivers.
It came down really, really fast. Rain was coming sideways.
Flooding also reported in cities like Philadelphia and Washington. A 13-year-old Baltimore area boy died after becoming trapped in a storm drain. Texas state lawmakers held a special legislative session in Kerrville yesterday to look into how local officials responded to that catastrophic 4th of July flood. State Representative Ann Johnson.
The 3 guys in Kerr County who were responsible for sounding the alarm were effectively unavailable.
The Kerr County Emergency Management Coordinator said he was ill and off duty ahead of the disaster, but there was no indication a catastrophic flood was imminent. The county judge faced intense scrutiny for his absence during the storm response. He was at a lake house preparing for a 4th of July gathering at the time of the disaster. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
I don't know where you were on day 1 on July 4th. but you should have been here. Everyone was here that day, and you were nowhere to be found.
The Kerrville flood claimed the lives of over 130 people, including 27 campers and counselors at an all-girls Christian camp along the Guadalupe River. President Trump is bringing back the presidential fitness test for school children. It was canceled by former President Barack Obama over a decade ago.
It's so imperative to the health of the nation to get young people back in shape, to get them motivated to exercise, to get them off their phones.
Former professional wrestler Triple H, whose real name is Paul Levesque, he's a member of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition.
One thing about the gym and physical fitness is you get out of it what you put into it, and they will learn that in this process. That's an incredible achievement for a young person that they feel good about and want to continue their fitness journey.
The fitness test includes push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, a mile run, and a sit and reach test. It dates back to the Eisenhower administration. Is your job safe from artificial intelligence? Big question mark there. Well, if you're not sure, Microsoft has just put a list out.
The tech giant looked at anonymous conversations between its AI chatbot, Microsoft Bing Copilot, and its users, and found workers who use AI the least and have the most AI-safe jobs include nursing assistants, painters, embalmers, and tire repairers. Dr. Nariman Farvardin, president of Stevens Institute of Technology, says students need to learn more than skills.
We try to teach students a way to learn on their own for the rest of their lives.
He says people who can innovate alongside AI will be successful.
Michael Wallace reporting. Still to come on the Noon Report for a Friday, the 80th annual Gary Rodeo, stealing cars, and history made in Happy Valley.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley. Aside from eastern Pennsylvania, where there are a few clouds remaining, abundant sunshine will prevail through this afternoon with temperatures in the 70s. A very pleasant afternoon. Pleasant weekend coming up as well. The full forecast details are on the way in about 10 minutes.
We'll take it. Thank you very much. Let's check some of the stories making news where you live next, all across New York and Pennsylvania. Today is the last day for school districts in New York to submit their plans for instituting a bell-to-bell ban on cell phones at school. That policy takes effect next month when students return to the classroom for another academic year. The smartphone restrictions are intended to cut down on classroom distractions and improve the mental health of students. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is taking heat for blasting the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. It bans trans athletes in girls' sports, and it passed the Pennsylvania State Senate earlier this year with the support of all Republicans and 5 Democrats. Still, Shapiro suggested to WITF Radio in Harrisburg that those who support this bill, Senate Bill 9, are extremists.
What we do not need in Pennsylvania are extremist politicians like Donald Trump and Doug Mastriano and these others trying to legislate a student's participation.
House Republican leader Jesse Topper did not take kindly to those comments.
To go on a media outlet and say that those who support that are extremists is not only unhelpful, but it's untrue. In fact, the majority of people who voted for Josh Shapiro think that this is a good idea.
Topper says a ban on trans athletes in girls' sports is an issue that an overwhelming majority of Pennsylvanians support, both Democrats and Republicans. The jury is still out on what impact President Trump's tariffs will have on the U.S. economy, and more to the point, on you, the American consumer.
It looked like the tariff deals we're making, and I'm confident we're going to make more, and in the end, it looked like the tariffs will work out okay. That's still going to mean slightly higher prices across a number of industries. That may drive inflation.
Financial analyst George Conboy with Brighton Securities in Brighton, New York.
These tariffs are likely to bring in $100 to $200 billion per year additional revenue. Now, the concern is, will Congress and the president spend all that money, or will they help use it to reduce the deficit. If they do, the tariffs could turn out to be a win-win for us, but it's a little early to tell.
The president has given nearly 70 nations until August 7th to make a new trade deal with us. China has until August 12th to come to the bargaining table. Buffalo Bills fans getting ready for tonight's annual Blue and Red scrimmage at Highmark Stadium. Kickoff happens at 5:30. Family Life's Dee Haley has more from Orchard Park.
For local businesses, the event is not just a fan favorite, it's an economic boost. Public safety officials are also gearing up. The Erie County Sheriff's Office has announced road closures and traffic changes for today. Abbott Road in front of the stadium closes in both directions at 2 p.m. and remains closed until after the practice. Before the end of practice, Route 20A will convert to two-lane one-way traffic going away from the stadium. All proceeds from the practice will be donated to the Buffalo Bills Foundation. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Thank you, Dee. It's no secret that shopping malls are on the downward trend. The Marketplace Mall in Henrietta, New York, no exception to that trend. It sits mostly empty now after featuring nearly 150 stores when it opened in the early 1980s. These Henrietta residents tell Wham News it's sad to see all that retail space go unused.
It was prime. It was beautiful. It's not so beautiful now.
Right now, I think they've reached that critical mass of vacancy where they're going to have trouble getting anybody to come in.
The thing is, once everybody leaves, nobody wants to come back. That's why all these stores are empty, because there's no drawing card for people to come shop there.
Between 70 and 80% of all the stores in the Marketplace Mall are empty right now. Experts predict nearly 90% of all the shopping malls in America could close within the next decade. A vigil happens tonight for a mother and daughter who died this week in a house fire in Lackawanna, New York. 28-year-old Felicia Toporek and her 4-year-old daughter Audrey were killed. Toporek's 5-year-old and 1-month-old were taken to the hospital. The cause of the fire remains under review. Motor vehicle theft is a huge problem in New York. Police say increasingly it is minors who are involved in this sort of criminal enterprise.
And unfortunately, this has become more of a game. It's not like these vehicles are being taken and they're profiting off of whatever chop shops and things you'd always see in movies or things. That's not the case here.
State Trooper James O'Callahan says vehicle theft leads to police pursuits which can have deadly consequences. Cheektowaga Police Captain Jeffrey Schmidt says moms and dads, you need to step up here.
Help guide them, to protect them, to find out where they're going, who they're going to be with, to not let them be out on the street at all hours of the night. Nothing good happens after 12 a.m.
DMV spokesman Walter McClure has some common sense advice to keep you from becoming a statistic.
Close the windows, lock the car where you're parked. Try to park in some place that's well lit or accessible where people are going to see it. Big thing is don't leave the keys, don't leave valuable items in the car.
From January to July, nearly 2,000 vehicles were stolen from upstate New York's 3 largest cities, Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse. Lyme disease is on the rise in New York. The number of confirmed cases has jumped by 20,000 since the start of the decade. In fact, New York now leads the nation in Lyme infections. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand wants more research into this tick-borne illness, as well as more funding to help prevent its spread. Experts say as more New Yorkers move into wooded suburban communities, incidents of Lyme disease will increase. History's been made in Happy Valley. Family Life's Brian Query.
It's a historic note and a high one for the Penn State University Blue Band. For the first time in its 125-year history, the Penn State Blue Band has named a female drum major. The band announced on social media Thursday that Ellie Sheehan, a piccolo player and fifth-year student from Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, will step into the iconic role this fall. Known for leading the band with high energy and a signature pregame front flip, the drum major is one of the most visible figures in Penn State's game day tradition. Sheehan's selection marks a major milestone for the university's marching band legacy. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, as expected, a flurry of trades at Major League Baseball's deadline. In New York, the Yankees strengthened their bullpen considerably by acquiring Pirates closer David Bednar. They also picked up relievers Jake Bird from Colorado and Camilo Doval from the Giants. The Yanks also shored up their infield, picking up Jose Caballero from Tampa Bay. The Mets weren't quite as busy, but they did pick up outfielder Cedric Mullins from the Orioles. The Phillies added veteran center fielder Harrison Bader in exchange for a pair of prospects. Philadelphia also picked up righty Matt Manning from Detroit. Carlos Correa is heading back to Houston to man the hot corner for the Astros. Mike Yastrzemski's going to Kansas City to play with the Royals. And the trade that was the biggest one of all in my mind, the Padres trading for stud closer Mason Miller. He joins a bullpen that already has a great closer and Robert Suarez. Both of those guys throw over 100 miles an hour, and between the two of them, they have a combined 50 saves. I think San Diego, with the offense and now that pitching, just might be World Series bound. In the American League, the Seattle Mariners may have just become the best team with the addition of Josh Naylor at first base and Eugenio Suarez at third base. Seattle already had the pitching. Now they have their best offense in 25 years. The next few months will tell. In action last night, Ben Rice and Giancarlo Stanton hit home runs. The Yankees took out Tampa Bay 7-4. Seattle shut out Texas 6-0. Cal Raleigh hit number 42 on the season. And it was a wild one in Cincinnati. The Braves scored 8 runs in the 8th inning to go up 11-3. The Reds then scored 8 runs in the bottom of the 8th to tie the game back up. Atlanta won it in 10, 12-11. That is a look at sports.
All right, thank you, Randy. And still to come on the Noon Report, a closer look at CMOG, the Corning Museum of Glass. Giddy up, the Gary Rodeo's underway, and in 4 minutes, weekend weather with Ken McKinley.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. One of the clearest proofs that Christianity addresses the fundamental problems of humanity is the bizarre lengths to which non-Christians go to address those very same problems, but without Christ. For example, tech billionaire Peter Thiel, former CEO of PayPal, recently went on Ross Douthat's Interesting Times podcast to discuss AI, Mars, immortality, and other light topics. The conversation was fascinating, especially when Douthat asked Thiel, should the human race continue? Thiel paused and then said, and I don't know quite a few times. Laughing nervously, Douthat then observed, that is a long hesitation. Well, finally, Thiel explained that he did believe humanity should survive, but that there are problems in need of solving. Chief among those, he said, death. And transhumanists have long hoped to conquer that via a, and I quote here, radical transformation of the human body into an immortal body. The problem, he said, with efforts like transgenderism isn't that they change bodies too radically, but that they're not radical enough. Quote, we want more transformation than that. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body, end quote. Thiel then pointed to Christianity and its doctrines of redemption and resurrection as precedent for the transhumanist idea of total self-transformation and conquest of death. Maybe, he hinted, the two philosophies aren't all that different. Douthat, a Roman Catholic, pushed back, pointing out that according to Christianity, God does the transforming. The person, Douthat said, who tries to do it on their own with a bunch of machines is likely to end up a dystopian character. Do-it-yourself immortality is, he said, at best a heretical form of Christianity. Thiel's fundamental assumption here, which is foreign to the Bible and to Christianity, but common among tech futurists and transhumanists, is that our minds are far more important and fundamental than our bodies. In other words, our true selves are our minds and actually separable from who we are physically. Not only is this assumption a rehashed version of the ancient heresy of Gnosticism, but it creepily resembles the philosophy of the evil National Institute of Coordinated Experiments, or NICE, in That Hideous Strength by C.S. Lewis. In that story, Dr. Philostrato hopes to cleanse the world of organic life. replacing trees and birds and even human bodies with machines. He even proposes something akin to uploading human consciousness. Now, that's not to say that transhumanists like Thiel are somehow involved in an intergalactic conspiracy run by demons speaking through a disembodied head, like in the book. Well, at least not knowingly. But the transhumanist urge to overcome human limits, to become more machine-like, to live forever, that's eerily similar. As is the rhetoric they employ. Humans were made in the image of God, and as such, we were made to be like him and live forever. Death is an enemy, the last enemy, and our longing for immortality is actually core to who we are. Perhaps that's why the transhumanist promises are so compelling to so many. However, we were made to do and receive all this through God, not our own ingenuity. As it turns out, transhumanism is indeed a Christian heresy, an ideology that rightly identifies the problems of a fallen world, but then seeks to overcome them through a false gospel of technological godhood, not the true gospel of salvation through Christ. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you much. Outside next, meteorologist Ken McKinley.
Good afternoon. Abundant sunshine in most all areas through the afternoon. The only exception, portions of eastern Pennsylvania still dealing with some lingering cloudiness, but that will be moving out as the afternoon moves along, and at least some sun will come out in those areas. Temperatures in the 70s this afternoon with low humidity. Very comfortable across the region. A cool night coming up tonight and a beautiful weekend ahead. We'll have mostly sunny skies both tomorrow and on Sunday. Temperatures pretty well into the 70s in all areas tomorrow, perhaps near 80 in some spots, and then on Sunday climbing into the 80s for most all locations. Early next week, sunshine, temperatures in the 80s, and humidity beginning to return.
All right, thank you, Ken. It's Friday, folks, the 1st of August, and you're listening to the Noon Report on Family Life.
This week, you could say our glass isn't just half full, it's overflowing with all things glass. Welcome to Family Life Staycations, a summertime feature where we highlight great places to visit around the Family Life listing area. I'm Mark Webster, and this week we're off to CMOG, the Corning Museum of Glass in Corning, New York. You've been to CMOG, you may well recognize the sound of the Rhodes Marble Machine that sits in the museum's extensive gift shop. Its mesmerizing clanging a favorite with young and old, and so is the museum itself, where Beth Duane is the Chief Marketing and Visitor Experience Officer.
Tell me a bit about the founding of the museum. Corning's got quite a bit of name recognition. You go outside of this area and you say Corning, people probably would think Corning Glass.
Well, in 1951, Corning Incorporated was celebrating their 100th anniversary. And true to form with how the corporation is always giving to their community, they wanted to give a gift to the world, not just the community or the nation. And they founded the Corning Museum of Glass at that time, truly as a gift to the world on their 100th birthday.
And certainly a rich history to display. Give us a little bit of an idea. It's not just a go and stare at old pieces of glass experience. There's a lot of hands-on.
That's the best part, I believe, about the museum is experience. Many guests arrive really not knowing what is a glass museum. One of the most uttered phrases today is, "I had no idea." And that truly sums up the depth and breadth of what one will experience when they come to the museum. Of course, we have the history of glass dating back 3,500 years to present, but there's also the artistic and glassmaking experience where people can watch and interact with live glass blowing demonstrations all day, every day. There's the science and technology of glass, and I think that's probably the most unexpected area of the museum experience. Is one is not thinking that they're going to see or learn about the innovations in glass, and yet we have all of that. And then to your point, you can get really hands-on with glass, not only in various interactives and various galleries, but also we have a dedicated space and workshop, if you will, where guests can make their own glass. And it's our Make Your Own Glass workshop. And you can do one of these glass experiences if you're 2 years old or 92 years old.
Let's talk about the history a little bit more. Going back 3,500 years, what are some of the more interesting points along that part of the museum that people...
For me, it's still hard. I've been with the museum quite a long time, and it's still hard for me to wrap my head around how one would even invent working with glass and glass making, let alone the evolution. 2,000 years ago is when it was a really pivotal moment in the history of glass, when glass blowing was invented. There never used to be glass windows. There never used to be glass bottles. Things that we take for granted day in and day out, let alone the thin glass on these mobile devices that we know and love and are attached to so much. And then I always bring up that optical fiber is glass. Optical fiber connects the world. And imagine going through the pandemic in an unconnected world.
All right, let's just delve a little bit more into the hands-on part. I think glass blowing, glass making, I think heat. It's going to be hot.
You're correct.
Well, how hot do you have to be to make glass?
I'm no expert, but you need to have glass at least like 1,000 degrees or hotter to be able to work with it. But the reheating furnaces, they're at 2,300 degrees. So it gets really hot. The team of artists that we have at the museum, they make it look so simple and so beautiful and very engaging, because the demonstrations, Mark, are narrated as well. So you as a member of the audience, if you have a question, you can just shout out your question and the narrator will gladly answer. They're an encyclopedia of knowledge. They tell me that you do build up a bit of a resistance working around that heat all day, every day in your career. I, for one, don't understand how that could be, but it's great because you kind of get a taste of the glass experience watching these demonstrations, and then again, you can come and try to make it yourself, and that's where certainly an appreciation for their talents grow, because what they make look very simple is in fact quite complex.
Yeah, it's a neat marriage of science and artistry.
Yeah, and we, with the expansion of the studio, we've been able to expand the breadth of what we offer. So you can still, blow a glass ornament or sandblast a glass, but you can also engrave in glass. And that's a really nice ode to the history of Corning as the Crystal City and the engraving that comes with that history. And then what I love is we call them in-depth experiences, and you truly are working with that hot molten glass, of course, alongside a very talented instructor, but you are creating a vase or a drinking vessel or a beautiful bowl with that instructor. You definitely get a feel for the glass that way.
Tell me a little bit more about the studio. That's where we are right now, upstairs. Is it a more recent addition?
The studio was about a third of the footprint of this building that we're in right now, so it's expanded to well over 100,000 square feet. The studio houses not only the make your own glass that we've been speaking of, but also glass classes. So you can be a novice and take some beadworking course over a weekend or a series of weeks, one day, one night a week, or you can immerse yourself in more beginner to advanced classes that are 1 or 2 weeks in length. And we have instructors and students that come from all over the world to Corning.
So we kind of sum it up a little bit. When somebody walks in the doors of the museum, what do you hope they come out with?
Well, there's a few things. First of all, before you even walk in the door, we want to make sure that you feel that this is an accessible place. And one may think that kids and glass don't go together, but I challenge that. Families find quickly that kids and glass do go together, and they're actually quite fascinated by it. And one of the ways that we signal this to our potential visitors is by offering free admission every day of the year for ages 17 and under. So we try to keep it a very affordable family experience. And then when you enter the doors, that's when there's like this aha moment, because it's just a much larger scale building and campus than maybe one would expect. And then just the Houghton family, who was running then Corning Glass Works when the museum was founded, they had shared to treat every person who walks through the door as their guest. It's like you're inviting them into your home. And so the associates who service and care for our guests are not called visitor services, they're called guest services, because we want you to feel welcomed right from the start. And then the hope is that you immerse yourself in a really fun and memorable experience that you share with your loved ones and that you can carry through with memories along the way, and that you leave learning and understanding more about glass than what you knew from the start.
I got to mention the gift shop too. It is a huge gift shop, and it's got quite an array of things from low price to pretty fancy stuff.
The shops at the Corning Museum of Glass, we are actually among the top 10 museum stores in the nation because it does have a large footprint, a large square footage dedicated to it. What's nice is that there is something for everyone, varying price points, as you mentioned, from the $5 trinket, if you will, or souvenir, to handmade artisan works that are one of a kind and command the price tag that goes along with that. I think it's important to share that one does not need to purchase an admission ticket to shop at the Corning Museum of Glass or to eat in our cafe. We actually have our admission tickets good for 2 consecutive days because we found that many didn't plan enough time, not really knowing what to expect, and so they're able to do some of the experience and see the museum on one day and come back the next to complete their tour and their experience.
Last question then, the website if you want to learn more.
CMOG.org, www.cmog.org.
That's Beth Dwayne with the Corning Museum of Glass in Corning, New York. And this has been Family Life Staycations, a weekly summertime feature highlighting great places to visit around the Family Life listening area. Please join us again next time as we hit the road again for another Family Life Staycation.
All right, can't wait to see where we go next week. Great work as always, Mark. And before we leave you, one more time to the Weather Center, meteorologist Ken McKinley.
Good afternoon. Abundant sunshine in most all areas for the afternoon. The only exception, portions of eastern Pennsylvania still dealing with some lingering cloudiness, but that will be moving out as the afternoon moves along, and at least some sun will come out in those areas. Temperatures in the 70s this afternoon with low humidity. Very comfortable across the region. A cool night coming up tonight and a beautiful weekend ahead. We'll have mostly sunny skies both tomorrow and on Sunday. Temperatures pretty well into the 70s in all areas tomorrow, perhaps near 80 in some spots, and then on Sunday climbing into the 80s for most all locations. Early next week, sunshine, temperatures in the 80s, and humidity beginning to return.
All right, Ken, thank you kindly. At the Weather Center, and finally at noon, New York and Pennsylvania are not normally associated with rodeos, but one small town in western New York is happy to be an exception. The Gary Rodeo got underway yesterday in Chautauqua County, and these folks tell WKBW they wouldn't have it any other way.
There's just something about 1 week of being so close and working together.
All the cowboys come here. This is their cowboy Christmas.
It's fun watching them ride on the bulls.
I think I've been coming to the rodeo for 75 years. The barbecue beef dinner, you cannot beat it.
After the week, we're all whooped and tired, but 4 days of craziness.
There's nothing quite like it. The 80th annual Gary Rodeo runs through tomorrow. It began in 1945 and is the longest running rodeo east of the Mississippi. More than 250 professional cowboys and cowgirls are in Gary for the next couple days, competing for $50,000 in prize money. And that's our world, the world we live in. Friday, the 1st of August. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.